They just don't make them like they used to, or so the saying goes, but in this case they're wrong. Because on my left-hand side I've got a classic 4.3 litre Alvis, and on my right-hand side I also have a classic 4.3 litre Alvis. The only difference between the two is that that one was built in 1938, whereas this one is actually brand new. But there's also a major difference in price, as the old car is changing hands for around £500,000, whereas the new version starts at a relatively modest £200,000. Yet as far as its makers are concerned, these two cars are effectively identical, this one being the first of a continuation series of 77 cars which were sanctioned for approval in 1938 but were never built as a result of the Second World War. The point to remember here is that this is the original car. Notice the engine's based on the original engine spec for the car, taken from original drawings, and is a cast iron block. And if you're wondering what the mallet's for, well, it's to knock off the hubs when you need to change a wheel. The bodywork's also aluminium, graced with 19-inch matte black finished wheels. The roof is easily assembled, just a matter of undoing a few clips here and there and Bob's your uncle. And look at that dash, all original Smith styles, and yes, those switches on the steering wheel actually work. Yes, indeed, we're talking about the real McCoy here, an authentic reincarnation of the original with only minor modifications added to bring it up to modern-day spec regulations. Cars require hydraulic brakes rather than the original cable variety, a collapsible steering column, and of course seat belts. But I guess the biggest innovation is a directly injected engine rather than carburetor fueled, and the reasons for this are twofold. One, you get better emissions, and two, you get a much better compression ratio on the drive. So the people at the Alvis Car Company see this car as a successor to the original concept. However, equally so, they want to see this reflected in the way the car drives. Yes, Alvis has no intention of creating a modern drive in a 1930s car. In fact, the object is quite the contrary, to make this car drive exactly as it did in its heyday. This is what I wanted to tell you all about, because this is the most exciting part of the whole thing, and it's driving this car. It's something which, to be honest with you, you've just got to experience, and it takes you back to a time when you really had to know what you were doing. It's called driving, and it just shows that with a modern car, you're mollycoddled the whole way through, because this is really a challenge to you, the driver, and also an experience you've got to focus on. If this is the way it was in the day, then it was fun. And what it really was about was learning to drive. Like, I've got to really think about how I'm steering at this moment, because the steering field is such that you've just kind of got to set the angle just right and then glide it through. But then again, I've got some lovely throttle response down here, and when I actually want to change, I've really got to change it. I've got to find that gear stick and make that change. In fact, we were a bit worried about whether we'd have enough stability within the car to be able to even do this, and look, it's perfect. Wow, that was quite an experience, and it takes you back to a motoring era when cars like the Alvis were not only the ultimate status symbols, but also a sign of wonderful craftsmanship and fine tradition. You'll be grinning from ear to ear for every single mile of your journey back through time.